Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. All right, so Mike, tell us about the new SERP in the EU for local that you've
So
been
to do
looking at.
this, I'm going to share screen and describe it as I share it. So I'm going to turn on screen sharing here and switch over just to show you the process. I have not one second.
This is a live demo, so we
It's
don't
a
know how
live
it's gonna
demo,
work.
so it's likely to go wrong. First is I just recently got NordVPN, which I'm having a grand time with because it allows me to virtually travel to any country and see what Google is doing in those countries. And so as a result of that, I've been exploring these searches in different countries and to see how they are different. And one of the big differences I think, again, I have not been tracking these carefully over time.
Well, you're showing a screen, a cookies permission screen, which we've never seen in the US. Go ahead.
Right. So when you first go to Google in Europe these days, for example, this is a private window in Safari. I've gone to Google, and this is in Italy, so it's asking me to refuse all cookies or to accept them all, or there's this minor box where I can accept some cookies. So I'm just going to, for the sake of this demonstration, refuse all cookies, which we've never seen anything like this in the United States. It's nice to be able to do that. I'm then going to search
on whether or not Google actually complies with that request is another story. But
you think they would dare violate?
Well, if they don't, one of the various NGOs is going to go after them, I'm sure.
So when you search, I'm going to switch to English real quickly. But the first thing you notice is I think it's an updated non-Google element that is placed.
Tell people the query, Mike. For the people that are listening to this, tell people what you've searched for.
Right. So I just searched on restaurants near me, and I am located near Lombardy, Italy. And the first element in the search is a carousel called Places Sites, which is organic pages with images embedded in the carousel that you can scroll through. When you click through
largely coming from restaurant directories such as TripAdvisor, OpenTable, The Fork, Yelp, Zomato. It's basically all of the sites that the PAC introduction had pushed way down the SERP.
And all of the sites who have historically criticized Google in the antitrust hearings and did so in Europe, right? All the sites that are complaining loud enough that Google is sort of throwing them a bone. When you click through to see more of these, you are taken to a organic search result, plain and simple, with no local PAC, just organic, and again, largely directory search results, not particularly localized. Other than
no individual businesses, mostly directories.
Right, and then you can go back to the original search, and right below that, you'll see the Places PAC with the scrollable map, and you can click on the individual listings to bring them up in a panel to the right. You can go into more places. But what's interesting, and then below that PAC is in this case, TripAdvisor, directory organic results, but then a second Places PAC with additional restaurants in it, which I find fascinating.
And no map.
No map, right. And when you click on them, you get the same panel behavior and no ability to go in and look at multiple listings. So basically, Google is doubling in this new display, doubling the space for their PAC listing. So clearly they're complying with the letter of the EU law in terms of displaying other sites and not self-preferencing theirs. Now, also interestingly, though, this Places sites, the organic directories that is often above is not always above. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't always above. Let's see here. Well, and both of these are, but sometimes it occurs below the pack results, which is interesting. Here in hotels, you see a predominance of ads at the top, then the places sites, which is the third-party directories that take you to their organic pages, and then the hotel finder. The hotel finder in Europe is a little different. It's a little less sticky than in the United States. In the United States, when you select an individual listing, all of the listings appear on the left or continue to appear on the left, and this dominates. So it's a little bit different as well. So Google has changed these based on obviously requirements of the EU, and it's exactly what Yelp asked for, and it's not clear to me they're going to get any more traffic out of it. But
Yep. And essentially, at least it seemed to me, based on the two examples you gave, the places sites carousel that shows up above the pack, and again, the two examples that you showed, not always above the pack, but where it shows up, that those sites largely mirror the organic rankings for the same query. So it's not like there's a new SGE algorithm we have to worry about. It's largely the same algorithm driving a new visual interface that's designed to placate the regulators.
That then drives you into a purely organic listing that's very often a very boring page where you have to then go to another directory to actually get an answer to your question. So it's not clear to me that users will even use it because it is so many clicks to get to an answer.
Well, given its prominence on the page, though, let's call it the places carousel. Given its prominence, at least in this restaurant's example, at the very top of the page, I would imagine that it will drive a certain number of clicks because it's so prominent and people can easily scroll through. And if they see a brand that they're familiar with, they may click on it. But that remains to be seen. It's an empirical question. I would add that this, just for context, Google has done a version of this in the past. So when Google was trying to placate antitrust regulators years ago, it created and it has still maintained in some contexts this kind of list of competitive directory sites that it put up there, but it didn't have them in a scrollable carousel. It was like, 3 of them or something, or the carousel wasn't as extensive at any rate. And
it wasn't as visual either. What didn't have the pulsating images is an expansion of that, for sure.
Right.
The
pulsating images.
Yes, they actually when you go over them, they actually sort of vibrate on you, which is new also. So, anyways,
and speaks to the importance for directories of image optimization, on-page image optimization, to make sure that they've got an image, which that first TripAdvisor result you showed did not have one, and that image is interesting enough to draw the eye if you are lucky enough to rank in that carousel.
Right. That's an excellent point. There's a lot at stake in that kind of hero image or whatever we would call it.
It's also interesting to me that the Google algorithm is still in effect. That sometimes you see the places, sites, carousel, the organic carousel, below the pack, which implies that it is ranked like any other universal result and then mixed into the result based on this algorithm. So sometimes you do see the local pack above this place site carousel. It's a very weird name as well, places sites.
So the Digital Markets Act is directed at so-called gatekeepers, which is just a handful of basically U.S. companies that are big enough to justify this treatment. And one of the things that it's trying to do is to address so-called self-preferencing, right? And so the local pack is seen by European regulators as self-preferencing, even though it's a listing of individual businesses. It's perceived to be a Google product or a Google branded experience. And so the chances are we're going to see the local pack, push down the page more often than not to comply with that directive.
But it does appear to be a defense of European companies, not necessarily in the interest of European consumers, that they are attempting to create opportunities for smaller, less dominant companies in the European market. It remains
even though most of the results that we saw were actually U.S. tech companies like Hotels.com and Yelp and TripAdvisor, and exactly right.
Zomato is an Indian company, but that was probably one of the exceptions.
Yes.
So
yeah, I can say, Greg, if you have some spare time in your day, go buy this NordVPN. I've become a big promoter of it. It works on your phone too. You can use the same copy. You don't have to pay twice. And
well, other than doing research on the other than doing research on the SERP or travel planning in Europe, I don't have too many occasions to pretend I'm in Finland or something.
I might have to submit an expense request for a trip to Paris just to try some of these searches myself. I don't know if I can trust the VPN results. So
approved, David.
Yeah, so it's definitely interesting times here, and we'll see. I mean, one of the interesting sort of final notes that I would make here is that we've been saying that, look, based on Ross Hudgens' analysis and other things that are going on, that SGE is unlikely to launch, and what we're going to see is a sort of trickling out of SGE inspired features. And Search Engine Land the other day, Danny Goodwin over there said, it's irresponsible for SEOs to kind of jump to this conclusion. This is a form of misinformation. But I think he's wrong. I don't think Google's ever going to launch SGE as it exists in the labs form.
It's also not misinformation. Ross isn't saying like he has inside information about this is what's going to happen. It's an opinion based on years of experience in the space. So
and drawing inferences from Google's commentary. But I think that Google definitely is pushing.
And, it's not like search engine doesn't draw inferences from a gazillion Google tests. They do. Exactly. They publish every test they get their hands on. It's all speculation. It's what keeps us, it keeps our day.
Keeps us in business. Keeps our brains functioning. All right. So this is the end of another exciting episode 144, as I said. And some of this stuff will be showing up in our newsletter. And be sure and tell your friends, spread the word, sign up for the newsletter, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.